Hey everybody, this is Jerry with Ground Effect Tools, and today we're going to take a general look at the Scott 3200 tail wheel, and I'm going to pinpoint some areas you should be looking at when you're doing maintenance on these things. And while we're in there, I'm going to show you where the tools that we make here at Ground Effect Tools, where you're going to use those in the maintenance process. This is not telling you how to do maintenance. This is more of a video just to show you the areas that tend to wear out, break, things to be looking out for. So without further ado, here we go. Here's the Scott 3200 tail wheel assembly, and let's start from the outside here. So disassembly of this thing, one, you got to remove the main bolt from the tail wheel spring, pretty straightforward. And then here's the main head bolt. Usually there's a greaser in here. I've already removed it. And then the nut and the washer, I've already removed those from down here. Once those are removed, the head simply comes off, and now you have access to the inside. Typically, you don't have a problem with the head unit. If you buy one of those rebuild kits from Alaska Gear Company, you can get a new phenolic like this one has got. Little history behind this one. We started to repair, and then we actually discovered that this bolt was bent inside the head. So I'm using it as a demonstration piece, and seeing that it was a little more difficult. Actually, I couldn't see it at all while we were doing all the work till I went to go finally do a final assembly, and then discovered that the head to tail fork here did not meet up flat. So and I couldn't correct it, so here we are. Makes for a good training piece. All right, so once we take this off, here we've got the steering arm assembly. Here's the first dust cap. This dust cap is broken. As you can see, this happens on occasion. Don't see it too often, but if they've been running hard out in the bush, then yeah, these will break off. These will break. More commonly though, this guy right here, the thrust washer. This guy tends to be a problem every time I open one of these up. This one in particular is already missing a pin. There should be a third pin on this guy, and it lives right there-ish. And so you'll see these pins either broken off or in this case broken off and very loose. If I see these in a tail wheel assembly loose, I will replace the thrust bearing or this thrust washer every time. These pins engage the springs that are right here. This spring assembly, or this head assembly, sorry, has got 5 springs in it. More commonly, I don't know, you can see 3 or you'll see 5 springs in here, but don't be alarmed if you open yours up and you only find 3 springs in there. That's pretty common. Okay, so now we've got this apart. The steering arm assembly comes off. We'll lay this to the side for right now. I apologize for any extra weird noises. I am not a videographer. I am a mechanic by trade, and well, we're doing this in my garage, so. All right, here on the bottom side, we have another dust cap, the lower dust cap, and a copper-ish washer that rides across the bottom surface here. As you can see, this guy is still pretty dirty. I believe it or not, it is a little cleaner than when we originally started. On the top side, there will be another one of those. And you'll notice the little cutout right there. And that is for engaging this pawl right here. This guy, this little dog. This thing is what unlocks your tail spring or tail wheel so that it can spin all the way around. So if you ever had your tail wheel up in the air and you grabbed it and you tried to spin it by hand, you notice you should hit some stops. And this is what overcomes those stops to allow you to spin it freely. Okay. So this guy over time can wear out. Typically what we see is the edges get rough This one is actually in pretty good shape. So these edges here, they can get blunted, worn out. I've seen them where they look like they've just been beat to death with rocks, or just completely smoothed over to where there's no flat right there. This, like I said, this one's in not terrible shape. So if this was in something I was working on, I would probably reuse it as long as we weren't having locking issues with, or I guess if the tail wheel was struggling to stay in within those detents without some pressure, then I'd probably replace that guy. All right, steering arms. This is the bent style of steering arm. We call it bent because it's got the tabs that are bent up. You might get one that's, yours might be flat. This is just simply a personal preference choice, style choice. I don't know, it may be specific to certain applications, but see these on Malls, you'll see them on Cubs, you'll see them on Cessna 170s, 185s. Yeah, so usually not too much that goes wrong with these. If they do get bent, it's because these arms get bent here from running over rocks or logs or whatever you guys run over. So generally speaking, just clean this guy up. If it's not corroded up, reuse it. All right, moving down to the fork here. As you can see, this one's got 5 springs, as we talked about earlier. Like I said, if yours has 3 springs, don't worry. So that bottom washer, this guy, sits here against this. And it's captured by this little dowel pin right here. So it doesn't actually spin. The dowel pin can be knocked out. There should be a tiny hole in the bottom here that where you can knock that dude out. Some of them do. I think older ones didn't. Usually those dowel pins are pretty loose and they're just kind of hanging out. The big problem area on these guys are these stop springs. This is what keeps your tail wheel from turning. These are the stops. And that dog that we showed earlier, that is what pushes on these guys to allow that thing to spin. You'll see these things bent. You'll see the edges of them get chewed up. This one's not horribly hammered. To get a good clean. Not terrible. I don't recall if this one had an issue with stopping, but or with stopping the turns, but if it does, these things will get mushroomed out sometimes and it won't allow the tail wheel to turn. And sometimes they'll get just hammered up to where they're just not engaging. I've also seen them to where they're packed so full of grease in here, especially in colder climates, that these things wouldn't compress in to allow the tail wheel to turn. So on this particular style, the way you replace these springs, now most of these parts are replaceable. So there's a pin right here, but that pin doesn't get driven in from the outside in. It gets driven from the inside out. Yeah, so as you can probably see, there's a bushing right here. Now I did work on one of these the other day that had a different style. It had a screw that went in from the front, which locked in the plates. And that was actually really quite handy. It's the first one I've seen like that, but I'd gladly take more of those. Inside here also, you may or may not have shims that support the spring because some of these gaps are wider than others. Like I said, the one with the screw didn't have a big gap, so there were no shims. This one has, I believe, 2 shims, one on each side. Usually don't have a problem with the shims, but just remember that they're in there. All right, so you got this bushing here, and this is where our first tool comes into play. It's this guy. This tool has been machined. Go in here to help you drive out that bushing. That way you can change these springs out. Now, mind you, I've not taken this wheel off. Down here is a bearing and a seal, like a roller bearing. I shouldn't say that. Like a wheel bearing, if you will, which is a real tiny one. It's actually the same wheel bearing that's in your tail wheels. A4080, I think, is the part number. I don't recall off the top of my head. But yeah, seal, bearing, and race are all in here. Typically, I push the bushing. Once the tire's removed, I press the bushing out from the inside, coming this direction. And this tool, this bearing press tool, has been made so that it'll pass all the way through the tail wheel, through this fork assembly. That way you don't have any issues. And with the lip on it, it stays lined up so that you don't have to have 3 hands while you're trying to remove this thing. Okay, so that's pretty much the problem areas on this guy. I have seen forks crack, not very often. I've actually seen heads crack too. I've seen them develop cracks in this area, but I think that's pretty extreme. So not likely you're going to see cracks in these, but I have seen them before. All right, so our other tool with the tail wheel maintenance kit is for pushing out this guy right here. There's a bushing in here. Now this one, somebody used, they didn't have the right bushing, so they used one of those split metal ring bushings from Napa. It actually just makes it easier to push out. But this guy is designed to, once again, go inside the hole so that you can push it out. Some of these are, this one's been removed, obviously. That came out way too easy. A lot of times they can be corroded in place or stuck from years of grime and gook and nastiness. So having a good punch that fits just right allows you to remove that guy with little problems. Okay. Oops. If for some reason you've got to remove this tail wheel head bolt, some people will do it, some people don't. Like I said, this is not how to do maintenance. This is just if you do maintenance. This tool is also, you can see the big giant hole in the center, is specifically for driving out this bolt head without damaging the threads. As you can see, threads are right on the end. This one had been previously damaged, which is probably why it was bent. So this guy goes over here, and now using your preferred choice of removal, you can extract the head, the bolt, out of the head. Pretty easy. It makes life way, way, way easier, because instead of hammering on top of the head, it's now hammering on this, I should say hammering, it's now pressing against the shoulder right here. And so 1, it's cleaner. 2, you don't damage your threads. 3, you don't damage your threads. Most of these parts are going to be, actually all these parts are going to be available at Alaska Gear Company. They sell a whole kit, or you can buy parts individually. Last time, well, I can't give you prices because I don't know them off the top of my head, but I can tell you it's a lot less than buying a tail wheel assembly. And hopefully this helps you if you're doing some maintenance and you're wondering what to look for. If you're wondering if that's right, well, if it's broken, it's not right. So thanks for watching, and check out our website, www.groundeffecttools.com, where you can buy the tail wheel maintenance kit. And this is going to help make those tougher jobs quite a bit easier. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching. I hope this was informational. I hope you got something out of it that's going to help you as you're looking at your tail wheel assembly and trying to decide if the parts are good or not. Special shout out to Harris Aircraft Maintenance. That's my regular day job employer. If you find yourself in Southeast Alaska, stop by the shop, say hi. We're always open for visitors. We always got coffee in the pot, and we enjoy the aviation community. So, like I said, if you find yourself in Juneau, Alaska, stop by, say hi. Thank you for supporting Ground Effect Tool. That's me. Very small shop, well, very small business, just starting out, and I appreciate all the love and support I've gotten so far. So the goal behind Ground Effect Tool is to make tools that make maintenance easier. And it started with this, the bush wheel assembly tool. If you ever put together 35-inch bush wheels on 10-inch rims, I have conjured a lot of things to get the job done. It can be done. It can be done with 2 people. It can be done with a handful of clamps and some 2x4s and some other stuff. But I thought, and as expensive as these things are, we need a better way. So, specially designed tool for assembling those wheels. And this also works on any other aircraft wheel if it has a 1.5 or 1.25 axle. Same principle applies. Tube type tires helps keep you from pinching tubes. I use it changing tires most of the time just because it makes it easy to hold that wheel together while I get all my bolts started. I can even torque down the bolts, and then I just simply remove the tool, and I don't have to worry about that wheel shifting while I'm in the middle of the torquing process or tightening down the wheels. I don't have to worry about a tube slipping in there because I know it's securely held. But I moved on to these guys. The bushing removal tool, head bolt removal tool, the tail wheel head to spring bushing remover. I use both of these here. Actually, I made these here recently because I was dealing with stubborn, stuck bushings, and I didn't have a good way of taking them out without damaging them. So, once again, making a tool to make life easier. And then lastly, I just want to introduce this guy right here. This is for removing the bushings on tail feathers, PA-18, maul tail feathers. It'll fit those guys. And the guy is designed to go through, keep yourself aligned. That way you can drive these things in and out straight without having to worry about trying to hold the punch, because it should rest inside there. Minimal support while you hit the back end. Back end's tapered so that over time, metals begin to mushroom. Hopefully it'll be longer before you got to dress it up. So a lot of thought and care goes into these designs. I know they may look simple, but man, they make life just easy. And if you spend enough time working alone in the field, you know what it's like to have tools at work and to have to conjure together things that they got you by, but clearly there's a better way. So website's www.groundeffecttools.com. You can also find us on Facebook. If you're going to Valdez, you'll catch me there. I'm gonna have a table, hopefully on the front row, but I'll just be happy to be there watching airplanes with the rest of you, and hopefully selling some tools. So more to come. Thanks.